Yep. I'm definitely mad. I'd try putting it in the water if I were you. Myrtle, did you say put the egg in the water? Oh, that's what the other one did. The handsome, good-looking one. Cedric! Myrtle, there aren't merpeople in the Black Lake, are there? Oh, very good. It took ages for Cedric to wriggle it out. Almost all of the bubbles were gone. Rah! Oh dear. Oh, I knew it. I knew I was mad. Oh dear. Honestly, it's not that piece of clothing I've got to worry about. Oh. I've gone down the drain pipe back to my bathroom now. Right then, I'll just go and do the second tournament then. Okay. First, I've got to find somehow to breathe underwater for an hour. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my review of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the fourth film in the Harry Potter series based on the fourth book of the same name. So, Goblet of Fire, well, we continued with the excellent adaptations and the excellent films in this series. Once again, I just want to quickly mention that visual effects and practical effects work seamlessly together. And to be honest, that's something I can say for all of these films. Interestingly, the quill that Tracy Skeeter uses, it looks CG, but actually they have a practical bit for when it's actually doing the writing. So they managed to trick the mind in places as well. I do think there is a bit more CG in this one than the previous films, but with CG improving over the decade, things can start to look a bit more impressive and more. You can also create more backgrounds and worlds, and all the underwater stuff in both the bathroom and the Black Lake also looks really cool. Also, I think the direction on focusing on this main story was probably the right thing to do, considering how big the book is. It was probably a good thing on the director Mike Newell and screenwriter Steve Klove's decision to just focus on the main story for the film, as opposed to having lots of different other stories. In fairness, they do miss out some things that would have further explained the story, further given more background detail to it. But for what we have, it's pretty solid for the most part. The plot sees Harry Potter and his friend go to the Triwizard Tournament. However, at the end of the tournament, it gets attacked by Death Eaters. Then at Hogwarts, at the start of their 5th year, Harry is mysteriously entered into the Triwizard Tournament with no explanation given. He tells them he didn't put it in himself, he's not allowed to, it's only for 17s plus, which is year 7s, and also maybe some 6th years if they're 17 before the final day of putting the paper in. So Harry is now a unofficial 4th champion. Well, it's official now. So he and 3 other champions, one other from Hogwarts, Cedric Diggory, who is a friend of his, and the other 2, Fleur Delacour from Beauxbatons in France, and Victor Crumb from Bulgaria, Durmstrang in Bulgaria. Although, why Dumbledore says, and our friends from the north, when he's talking about Bulgaria, when in fact Bulgaria is actually southeast of the UK. If he said Russia, then it would make a lot of sense, or one of the Scandinavian countries, then it would make a bit of sense, although in Hogwarts it would be to the east, to be honest. But still, it would make a bit more sense. Or if they were from Greenland or Denmark, in fact, there's not really much going further north than the UK besides them, parts of Scandinavia and the Arctic. And Canada going the other way, heading west, or North Russia. But anyway, that's just a pointer. No, nothing to complain about. So the four champions have to do battle with a dragon, and they have to fight underwater creatures in order to. With the dragons, they have to get a gold egg that gives them a clue to the second task, which turns out to be rescuing people they care about from the Black Lake. It's all a game, but it's a deadly game, as Hermione says, designed to test you in the most brutal way. They're almost cruel. And also Sirius Black also mentions that people die in these games, something that we'll see happen to one of the champions later on. Also, there's an additional unofficial 1.5 test where they all get together for the Yule Ball, and it's partly tradition. For the thing going on, and tensions rise between our trio, especially between Ron and Hermione during those scenes. Also, throughout the year since the summer, Harry has been getting nightmares about Lord Voldemort, Peter Pettigrew, and a mysterious third person who later turns out to be... No, hold on, I'll reveal that later. Spoiler alert. But after the second tournament, Harry looks into dependency at Dumbledore's office and discovers that this third person is the son of the guy organising the Triwizard Tournament, Barty Crouch. Both men are named Barty Crouch. It's Senior who's in charge of the Triwizard Tournament, and he's in. I don't know if he's in the Auror office in the film. I'm not sure if he was in the book or if he was just in charge of some part of the Ministry. But he's in charge of the Triwizard Tournament here, and Junior is one of Voldemort's most loyal servants as of this installment. So, yeah, and actually, it's Crouch Jr. who kills his father after Senior recognises him whilst disguised as a certain character. Again, I shall name in a few minutes. And then we get to the third tournament where this certain character has bewitched the Triwizard Cup to be a portkey to a graveyard where Voldemort and Pettigrew are hiding. And eventually Harry and Cedric end up getting the cup together, and Cedric is murdered by Peter Pettigrew. And I do have an issue with that one bit there. It's that from going forward, everybody says that Voldemort killed Cedric, not Pettigrew. I mean, yeah, it was with Voldemort's wand, and they might not know about Pettigrew while Sirius Black is still considered a mass murderer on the run until after the 5th installment. It's the same problem I have with people saying that Stavro Blofeld killed Tracy Bond in the James Bond film On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and also the book as well, when in actual fact it was Irma Bunt, probably Blofeld's number 2, following Largo's death. But yeah, and also in the book You Only Live Twice, his wife, or supposedly wife. So yeah, it does annoy me a little bit that they say, "Oh, Blofeld killed Tracy," when in actual fact it was Bunt. Bunt. The difference kind of is that they don't really say it on screen that much. It's more implied about it. It's probably just people off the thing, out of the film, but and the book as well. But in the books and the films, Harry and anyone who believes him will say Cedric Diggory was killed by Lord Voldemort. Apart from in The Cursed Child, where they do bring it up that Voldemort said "kill the spare." Hence, that was from Amos Diggory, where he does pretty much say that not say Pettigrew killed him, but say that he was killed on orders by Voldemort, but not by Voldemort himself. So apart from that, pretty much everybody going forward is going to say that. And that kind of does annoy me, because that's not exactly true. It was on Voldemort's orders with his wand, but the guy didn't put his hand to him himself. He did order it, so it is sort of on him. But it was Pettigrew who technically carried out the murder. Voldemort will be more responsible for other deaths in the series, both before and after this particular event. But that's my real only problem with that bit. I actually think the way that they handled the death of Cedric was pretty great. All things considered, it was to be the most shocking death of the series prior to Half-Blood Prince, although there would be one in Order of the Phoenix to rival it. But prior to Half-Blood Prince, this would be the most shocking death in the series, and would be also the saddest, possibly, that or some of the deaths in Deathly Hallows, either film. Well, part 2 mainly in the films, but book just the best Deathly Hallows for the book. So yeah, I think that was handled brilliantly, and the scene in the graveyard is also brilliant. And also the scenes building up to that, pretty much the entire film, it's just building a grander level of magic and the wonder that we've seen in the last films, but it's building up, and also injecting the darker tone as it goes, and it's building up the film so brilliantly till we get to the climax, and just a brilliant climax. I also love how new composer Patrick Doyle composes the movie. I always love the John Williams things, but Patrick Doyle's music for this film might be my favourite Potter score. This or Deathly Hallows Part 1 by Alexander Desplat. But yeah, I think the opening is probably the best musical opening with the logo and the Warner Brothers logo, the snake and the Harry Potter logo coming from the sky. And it looks really cool. Really cool opening, and they're able to capture the present day setting of chapter 1 of the book brilliantly. With the first scene, it's so great, and then it just keeps going from there. The acting is also brilliant from all parts. The stories remain strong. Yeah, we do skip several days, months, weeks, months in some points, especially between the second and third tournaments. However, in order for the main story to keep it within 2.5 hours roughly, then or just over, then I think that's fine. They did it. I think they handled it brilliantly. They do spend a lot of. I think the first half hour is just before they get to the Goblet fight, but that still works really well. And after that, it's just a roller coaster of a ride of events going on, as well as still the usual school stuff going on. Although not many classes. Alistair Moody's classes at the start is probably the closest we get, and also a homework session at one point. But besides that, it's mostly focusing on this plot or character growth. There is quite a lot of character growth in this film. I will say, whilst the Harry-Ron fallout between Harry finding his name and the end of Triwizard Tournament 1, the first tournament, yeah, I can see why they did that. I can see why that would happen, but I think some of the agitation did go a bit too far. Harry calling Ron a git just out of nowhere, just didn't sit right. Yeah, Ron didn't tell him directly about the dragons, but he could have just confronted Ron about that instead of just calling him a git, or at least apologised after the tournament, saying, well, "I'm sorry, I called you a git when you didn't really tell me properly. I mean, you didn't exactly make it easy to work out, but I was a bit harsh. Sorry." So yeah, and the Ron Hermione argument later on down the line, again, character growth, but I think again there could have been some sort of resolvement between the two to kind of fix it, maybe at the end of the year. But the characters are growing and changing throughout the year, and I think it is possibly the best character growth of the characters since the first film. Although 2 and 3 have very strong character development, as do 5, 6, and 7, and 8. If we're going by films 7 and 8, or 7, 1, 7, 2. I also really like Brendan Gleeson as Mad-Eye Moody, who, spoiler alert, turns out to be Barty Crouch Jr. in disguise, and the real Moody is in a big case. Brendan Gleeson would reprise the role as the real Mad-Eye Moody in films 5 and 7. And yeah, I think he does a brilliant job as both the real Moody, more so in the next film and the 7th film. He's not in the 6th. Or 8th, he dies in 7, sorry. But he's not in 6, he's in 5 and 7. And also the fake Moody, who is what we get for most of the runtime in this film, besides when we see the real Moody in the case. And here he screams. And I think Brendan Gleeson just does a fantastic job with the role. And similarly, David Tennant as Barty Crouch Jr., when he's not in disguise, he's amazing as well. I think if Tennant had been as well known as he would be a couple months later, when the film came out, he would have had he would have had his name in the big list of names credits you have after the director, producer, or that kind of title thing you have at the end of the film, and then in the before getting his name in the credits. But in the title thing, I would have thought he should have gotten his name there, even in the second lineup of T's. Sadly, not. And I think if Tennant had gotten as much of was as well known as he would a couple months later after his first episode as the 10th Doctor, then in Doctor Who, then his name probably wouldn't be on that list. In fact, Children Need Special would have been come out around the same time. So, and it would have been after Parting of the Ways came out. So people would have been excited to see the new Doctor in a Harry Potter film as a villain. But it's a shame he doesn't get his name in the title sequence at the end, just before the credits. So yeah, it would have been nice to see him just before the three champions, around the same place as Mark Williams. Oh well, at least he's credited. It's a shame the character doesn't come back again, but then again, in the book, a Dementor sucked out his soul. Pretty much what they described would happen to Sirius Black before Harry and Hermione saved him. So yeah, he's probably not going to come back. Similarly to how Gellert Grindelwald is killed by Voldemort in the book Deathly Hallows, so he's not going to pop up again in part 2 after Voldemort visits him in part 1, even though he leaves him alive. It's alright, we've got plenty of Fantastic Beasts films to feature Grindelwald to make up for that. 5 to be precise. Well, 2 out at the moment, 3 more to come. At least. I don't know about any more featuring Barty Crouch Jr. So, yeah. But Tennant was brilliant in the role. And also, new cast members we got Frances de la Tour as Madame Maxine. She's good. She's a great new character. And also Igor Karkaroff, name below because I can't remember it. He's good as well. He does a really good job as the Durmstrang head High Master. Madame Maxine was the Beauxbatons headmistress. Also, the champions Robert Pattinson, who's now more known for Twilight, does an excellent performance as Cedric, and Clemence de Posey, who will return in films 7 and 8, also does a great performance as Fleur Delacour, and also the guy playing Victor Crumb, again, name here, also does a great job. I think he does appear in film 7, but only in the wedding scenes. Yeah, they all do good, and it's great to see them getting a bit of attention on the promotional posters. To be fair, Fleur doesn't get a huge amount to do in the film, to be honest. I think she gets a little bit more to do in the book, or at least she's seen a bit earlier, so we can make the connection from the World Cup scenes, so we can make the connection a bit sooner. And plus, she has to retire from 2 of the tournaments for reasons, so she actually ends up being a kind of a less useful character. If the characters were in a fight against Voldemort, for example, she would actually be the least useful, if anything, from this film's scene. Can't comment on the book because it's been a while since I've read it, but again, might not be as useful as the other guys. And considering it's the only female character as part of this lineup, then that is a bit of a disappointment. Shame. Maybe if another female character was one of the 4, then it wouldn't be as bad. Oh well, but she's still a good character, and she also does well with her appearances in the Deathly Hallows and also in the book in Half-Blood Prince. Although again, not doing much. And whilst we're on the Quidditch scenes, yeah, it was a disappointment not to actually see the Quidditch match. It would have been a great scene. It probably would have taken 5 or 10 minutes, judging by the Quidditch scenes from the last 3 films. Well, not so much Prisoner of Azkaban, because they cut it down a bit to focus on the Dementor attack, but certainly for films 1 and 2, the Quidditch scenes were going for about 5 or 10 minutes, which would have been fine, but I think that would have made the film a bit longer than Chamber of Secrets, at that matter. This is the second longest. But it still would have been a great fun ride to see it. So hopefully it was a deleted scene. I've got the single disc release as a part of the 6 film box set for the first 6 films. So, but if it was on the second disc for the 2 disc set and the Blu-ray, then it would have been awesome if they filmed it. Yeah, it would have been a nice little bonus set, or maybe it's its own short film. That would have been cool. Quite a lot happens in that chapter in regards of the game, and also that's where Fleur pops up as some sort of cheerleader or umpire or something from the something happened in the book. But yeah. And finally, Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort. Oh, he is fantastic. He does a brilliant performance as Voldemort. I think he does get better over time, appearing in films 5, sort of appearing in 6, but not properly, and 7 and 8. I think he will get better in 5, 7, and 8, but I think we're off to a great start here, and he is certainly putting it all in with the performance, and it's just beautifully managed, and it's also shot really well. In fact, this film also brings in the camera kind of moving a bit faster, so it's like from a point of view for the most parts. At a few points in times, like we're seeing the camera from Harry's point of view as he's walking past people, like after he's gotten his piece of paper out. That's cool, and when the camera is kind of moving between objects, that's great to get a reaction shot or get a shot of a character or an object. It's all handled brilliantly, and just lots of great stuff. Again, this film is masterfully put together. I think everyone just had a lot of confidence when making this movie, as well as the other films. But these first 4 films have had a lot of love, care, and attention putting into the story and putting into the execution, and I think that pays off spectacularly. I also don't really see that Rita Skeeter in the film not being that necessary. In the book, yeah, I can see why she was there, but in the film, not so much. She doesn't really contribute that much. She does have a small part to play in part 7 as well, film 7, but they could still just have name dropped her, like they did with Bathilda Bagshot. I think that was her name, who was already mentioned a few books earlier. That should have been one of the books Harry was reading at home as one of his homeworks in Prisoner of Azkaban. So again, it could have been a name drop in Deathly Hallows Part 1. But in the film Goblet of Fire, Rita Skeeter doesn't really do much. There's a bit more about the character and a bit more about the story. I don't know if she gets more about to do with the actual story, but she does have a bit more of she has a slightly increased role with her own subplot, mini subplots in the book, and that is partly glossed over. It's kind of glossed over here, so I think her inclusion, full stop, could have been skipped because of that. But that's not a criticism; it's just a point over. But on the whole, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is a brilliant adaptation and a brilliant film. It's masterfully put together, lots of care and attention to it, and just a lot of love for the product, and the fact that it's getting darker, even more so than the last film, and injecting that sense in, but also still retaining the adventure and the magical wonder of the last 3 films, but also kind of putting a new spin on it, and then building up the darkness and the danger plot as we get ever closer to the resurrection, or rather return of Lord Voldemort, and we come to a pretty spectacular close. And the ending is also really nice, with everyone saying goodbye and a nice look over the Great Lake as Bo Battens and Durmstrang leave for home. It's a really lovely final scene, and we get to skip all of that bullshit with the Ministry of Magic not believing Voldemort's back. No, we'll save that for the entirety of the next film. Yeah, we find that out at the start of the next film. In the book, it starts at the end of of book 4. It starts at the very end of Goblet of Fire, and it is a major component in Order of the Phoenix. Thankfully, we skip that for the film, and we just jump, and when we get to Order of the Phoenix, they just explain it there. Instead of everybody knowing for the entirety of the summer, we can actually get a nice ending here before we can move on to the next story. So on the whole, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is a fantastic movie, and a brilliant adaptation of the book. I honestly think all of these adaptations are brilliant, but I think the first 4 are possibly the best adaptations. As much as I do love Deathly Hallows Part 2, and Part 1 is a very good adaptation of the first half of that book, but I think the first 4 are the stronger adaptations when it comes to adaptations. And similarly, there seem to be the stronger films, minus Deathly Hallows Part 2. But yeah, because that one will always be my favourite. But I think out of the others, the first 4 seem to be the strongest, especially when it comes to adaptation. Although Deathly Hallows Part 1 is also a very strong adaptation. So, on the whole, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, brilliant movie, and once again continues the streak of excellent, fantastic Harry Potter films. So I'm going to be giving this film a 10 out of 10. Yep, that's my 4th 10 out of 10 for a Harry Potter film in a row. Although, with Chamber of Secrets in this film, it has gone up from 8 to 10 and 9 to 10 respectively. Also, shout out to Ollie Pajak, aka Mr. TARDIS 11. This is his favourite Harry Potter film, and I can totally see why he would think that, although I personally prefer a few others to this one. But that's just opinion, that's subjective. Objectively, it is a very strong movie, and a brilliant adaptation. So that's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Next time we'll be taking a look at what is my least favourite Harry Potter film by far, and that is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And this also applies to the Blooper. So that was my review of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Next time we'll be taking a look at what is easily my least favourite Harry Potter film, and also based on my least favourite Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Yeah, the 10 out of 10 streak is going to stop here, and we'll, Deathly Hallows Part 2 will be a 10 out of 10. I don't know, can't say for the other 3 in between. Certainly not this one. Yeah, the streak's stopping at Goblet of Fire, because Order of the Phoenix is a bit of a letdown, considering the 4 films that came before, and quite honestly, the 3 films that come after. Not to mention Fantastic Beasts. Yeah, some of you don't really like Fantastic Beasts, I know, but I personally prefer Order of the Phoenix. No, I prefer those to Order of the Phoenix, although Fantastic Beasts 1 would probably be my next lowest. I'll do a ranking after Deathly Hallows Part 2 that includes the Fantastic Beasts films. But yeah, next time, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Not as excited for that one as the others, but hey-ho. Anyway, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Oh, you joking. That's going to be our first blooper. Stay. Excuse me. Excuse me. So both Crouch Jr. is But they still, it's like how people say Blofeld killed Tracy Bond in On Her Majesty's Secret. Fuck you. Oh, for fuck's sake. And also, I do. I think if the film, well, so on the whole, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is a fun. Dude. As much as I do think, fuck off. As much as I do love Deathly Hallows Part 1, and I think sorry. So that's Harry Potter and the sorry. I'm definitely mad. I'm definitely mad. Myrtle? Myrtle? Did you say put the egg into the water? Myrtle? There aren't mer people in the Black Lake, are there? Well, I'm off to do the second tournament then. I must be mad. Wow.